Surely the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants the prophets.
And there is also a prophecy that talks about a nuclear bomb.
A nuclear bomb, but the bomb will be small, not large, and God will just stop it in the sky, and it won't fall.
You mean they will fire a nuclear bomb at us and God will freeze it in the sky?
He will freeze it in the sky, and after a few weeks it will fall, but it will only fall on 2 cities, Tel Aviv and Haifa.
This new Arash 2 long-range drone, Brigadier General Haidari boasted about today, and he said that it is specifically designed to target 2 cities, Israel's second and third largest cities on the Mediterranean coast, Tel Aviv and Haifa. Tel Aviv and Haifa. Tel Aviv and Haifa.
But it will only fall on 2 cities, Tel Aviv and Haifa. But it will only fall on 2 cities, Tel Aviv and Haifa.
The voice of the Lord said unto me, when those in charge say that they will pull out of a deal, look up. As I see the sky turning completely red and orange, I see hundreds and thousands of people evacuating their homes. I saw a highway of cars lined up to exit the city. As a woman drove up to me, she said, "Don't you see? The land is on fire, and asteroids and meteors are falling into Earth." I said, just like the man said on the video. She shook her head and began to weep. As she ran back in her car and drove away, another man comes up to me and shows me a video of a congressman making a live speech that U.S. has pulled out of the deal, and I seen the stock market falling apart.
Hillary, just a few weeks ago, there's this growing sentiment and optimism that a deal was almost there. Now that optimism seems to be fading away. Why is it?
I think 2 things changed here in Washington. One was a determination, an evaluation by Biden's political advisors that the Democrats had a better chance of keeping at least the Senate in the upcoming November 8th elections here. There had been tremendous pessimism that the Democrats would keep the Senate or the House up until maybe the beginning of August, when President Biden's poll numbers started to rise significantly. And that has to do with a few things here in our domestic politics. But the idea, the prospect that the Democrats could retain at least the Senate has made the administration, which has always been hesitant about rejoining the JCPOA, it has made it even more hesitant to do so, and hesitant to open up what they see as a wide prospect of criticism from potentially 2024 candidate Trump and other Republicans. Mm-hmm. So it's very much something that's driven by domestic politics here and domestic politics in Israel, which the Biden administration takes very, very seriously in terms of how that affects domestic politics in the United States.
I can tell you that the redemption is very close to here.
And what will happen during that redemption?
Very bad things are going to happen, but it depends on who, as far as I knew. It is certain it will occur in the coming months.
How will it begin?
It will be started by somebody named Gog. As far as I knew up there, only up there.
He is called Gog?
Yes.
And do you know who this Gog is?
I am sure I know who it is.
Who is it?
Obama, President Obama.
He will start Gog and Magog?
He will be the one who starts that war. He will bring his whole army. He will start the war here.
And he'll fight against us?
He'll fight against us. At first, everyone will just want Israel. Jerusalem, Israel. Everyone will want it.
Jerusalem?
Jerusalem, yes. Everyone will want it. The whole world. They won't care about us. They will just want Jerusalem. Everyone will fight against each other because they want it. Not long at all. All of the bad things will take 2 weeks.
How will we know when it starts?
It will start with a boom. First of all, it has already started.
It has started?
As far as I could see, it has started. It started on September 11th, 2015. It has already started.
On the 27th of Elul last year in 5775.
This year, yes. Last Hebrew year.
We are in 5776, so it started last year, 3 days before Rosh Hashanah. Gog and Magog started.
Yes, that war has already started.
So why don't we sense anything?
Because God won't bring it at first. What will happen one certain day, it will just erupt. Something will will set off, and it will just erupt. All of the news channels, everything. Everyone will say, World War III has started. Everyone will just know. That's it. There is no time. And everyone will know that God has caused this event.
You mean that there will be a security incident?
Yes.
And that causes everything to go out of control?
Yes.
Everyone will start fighting against each other?
Yes, exactly.
So at first, they will fight against each other?
Yes.
And us?
We will be outside of it, but then everyone will come against us. They will unite and come against us.
The Chinese refused to move their drone after the firing of warning shots. In other words, China is trying to provoke a crisis. And this crisis obviously could spiral out of control. And what we have right now is the situation which could very well end up in a general conflict in East Asia. You have a conflict in East Asia, a conflict in Ukraine, and that's really the beginnings of the world's next global war.
Where's Joe Biden? How should he be responding?
Joe Biden should be in front of a television camera right now talking to the American people about getting ready for war. The Chinese are not only involved in what is the biggest military buildup since the Second War. What they're also doing is they're mobilizing the Chinese people for conflict. And we see this in any number of different ways. So this is a total society effort on the part
And I will
of Xi
turn
Jinping,
your
the Chinese
feasts
ruler.
into mourning,
We don't know
and all
what's
your
going on
songs
in the
into
Chinese political
lamentation.
system right now. The guess is that Xi has consolidated his power and he's now going after neighbors. If so, the United States needs to be very firm in this. We need to be clear, saying we will defend Taiwan to prevent the Chinese attacking. Anything can happen right now, Todd and Ashley.
So, Gordon, is the U.S. military prepared for something like this? Can they handle this?
They're not prepared for a number of reasons. First of all, the Navy has been broken for a decade. The Air Force is not in great shape either. And also, the political leadership of in the Pentagon is not, I think, mentally prepared to fight a general war. They're much more interested in things like, woke culture and the rest of it. But also, they believe that if a conflict with China comes, it'll come no earlier than 5 years from now. And that's why they're retiring ships and planes. They need to be ready for a conflict with China in the next few hours, not 5 years from now.
If Joe Biden had demonstrated strength throughout his term, when you look at places like Afghanistan, would China be doing what it's doing right now?
I don't think so. When Afghanistan was falling, the Chinese propaganda was that when China invaded Taiwan, not if, Todd, but that when China invaded Taiwan, the U.S. would not rush to the island's defense. We, of course, saw not only the calamitous withdrawal from Afghanistan, but the failure of the West, the United States, the European Union, and Great Britain to deter a far weaker Russia in Ukraine. I think the Chinese have taken that on board, and they believe that the United States is not prepared to defend anyone at this particular time. Now, I'm not saying they're right, but that's what they're thinking, and that's extremely dangerous because deterrence has broken down. And the most dangerous periods in history are those when a country like the United States tries to reestablish deterrence. That's when things go horribly wrong.
So it started last year, 3 days before Rosh Hashanah. Gog and Magog started.
Yes.
The Titanic sank on the morning of April 15th, 1912. That's 4151912. 23. The Hiroshima bomb was dropped at 8:15. 8 plus 15 is 23. The Mayans said the end of the world would come in 2012. 20 plus 1 plus 2 equals 23. Go ahead. Tell yourself it's just a number.
Nathan right here, he says that it all starts with a boom and a flash of light. As I have said, he said this. He is Nathan. He's the Jewish boy that died. Tony, she sent me this. Yes, I agree. I put correct down here. She says the same thing. He says, and she's confirming what I heard, and what I heard on his video, it starts on Elul 27, which is right here. She's saying it the 23rd. The event will start about the 23rd. These people are out of the country. As I showed here, Camelia Harris is going out of the country, and I showed in my other videos that their concerts are canceling around this time. She's going out of the country on the 25th. Prince Charles, which people have sent this to me, and I checked into it. Prince Charles, right here, he says right here that there's going to be mourning instead of 10 days as reported. He's saying it's going to be 17 days of mourning. The royals release the memorial details. So in other words, the funeral will be after the 17 days of mourning. So we go here. We go 8 is right here. There's 7. There's 14. There's 15, 16, 17. So there you go. The same time frame as Camelia Harris. Everyone's leaving. And it says right here she's bringing a delegation. So in other words, there's more than one person going with her. She's taking a whole delegation, which means a bunch of people. So everyone's fleeing the United States at this time. As I said, when the rockets come down, when the rocket goes up to divert this rock, they're all leaving.
A lot of strange things are happening correlated to certain dates during late September and early October. From the Queen's passing to the Biebs canceling his concert. It might not seem connected, but it is. It is all pointing to the end of September and early October. September 30th, all of the church's liquid assets from all over the world need to be moved to the Vatican Bank. Was this a signal? It happened right before the Queen's passing, a huge red flag. One day after that, on October 1st, German platoons will be patrolling the streets. Also on September 30th, the Bank of England will be withdrawing all legal tender of 20 and 50 paper banknotes. This new money, do they have microchips in them? Ireland's biggest bank will be removing cash services from 70 branches. The switch will take effect between September and October. All these major events are taking place September, October. Even Denver is giving out free bug-out bags for people to prepare for the month of September. A man in the German parliament told the world to prepare for September the 24th, 2022, stating that something so dramatic will happen that you will remember this date forever and where you were at. September 24th, 2022 is a 666 date. Something is happening in the background, and it looks like certain people are preparing.
You can stop by and get a free bug-out bag. This is all being put on by Denver Emergency Management on Saturday, September 24th. September 24th.
The echoes of 2008 are repeating, even Michael Burry warning of a crash. Europe could see a devastating Lehman Brothers event with 1.5 trillion in margin calls. That 5-1 number, the Illuminati founding date. The Queen died at 96, 9 plus 6, 15, with that 5-1. The Queen passed 911 days after the WHO declared an emergency. The Queen's passing has a lot of cryptic symbology to the kickoff of strange events to come. 33 million watched the Queen's death. Degree of secret societies. Canada will be getting new coins and banknotes for the 33 Commonwealth nations. The Queen's face is on so many countries' money because of her allodial title. If you hold allodial title, you can have your picture on the banknotes. Allodial title, the ownership of real property that is independent of any superior landlord. Property, not just land. What constitutes property? The role of the Queen is hidden in plain sight. They say there is no monarchy and they don't have any power. Well, is that true? The power of the Queen and wealth of the royal family in the hierarchy of this earth goes back to the Hammurabi Code. That's when the royal lineages were established. Right before the Queen's passing, There was the Commonwealth Games. The beast ritual, King Charles, was 007. 007 was John Dee, the occultist for the British Empire. He even coined the term British Empire, which was changed to the Commonwealth. There has always been cryptic messages within numbers. 9 plus 11 is 20, and on the $20 bill there's a cryptic message of 2 towers. This is all leading to putting nature on the blockchain, and the elite's wealth taking it back and commoditizing it onto the stock market. The old systems are passing away. We are entering a new world of the Internet of Things. Digital IDs will be the method for business travel and access to the world. This is why there has been so much pressure on farmers, because they still own a lot of the land. Serfdom is being taken place in the West right now, a large land grab. While we're all in conflict with each other, the divide and conquer, fertilizer reduction will equal into farms failing. That land will be purchased for pennies on the dollar from billionaires. And their plans are to securitize nature, turning nature into an asset class. And to do that, they need to take back all of the land.
But in this dream, she kept saying, she was telling me that her mother's party was coming. She said, my mother's party is coming. It was almost like she was inviting me. And I said, well, when is it? She said, it's the 24th. She said, it's the 24th. And she repeated it a couple times. She was like, no, is it the 24th? And she just kind of like stood there and pondered. She wasn't sure if she had the day right. So after pondering for a couple seconds, maybe 10-15 seconds, she finally blurted out and she said, no, it's the 26th. It's the 26th for sure. It's the 26th. And I woke up after that.
Queen Elizabeth was born in 1926. Do you see the 926 in there? I don't know. Is this another hint about the 26th of September, 926, the beginning of the 7-year Shemitah, possible 7-year Daniel's? I really highly believe that. And also her second birthday was on 926, and she did not make it. And you look over here, Olivia Newton-John's birthday was 926. She didn't make it either. She was born the same year Israel was born. Her name is Olive, the olive tree, which is Israel's pointing towards Israel. So Queen Elizabeth is dead. She was born 926. Her second birthday this year was 926. And our high rapture date is 926. And the reason why 926 is because it's the end of the sabbatical year. It's the year of Jubilee. Comes to an end. It's the end of the Super Shemitah, the end of the 120th, the 70th Jubilees is the end of the 5993 or 5997 real year date. And thank you, Northern Warrior. God bless you for that. And I'm telling you that we are coming to the end of the age here with Queen Elizabeth. She was a huge sacrifice. I just put this up. She was a sacrifice for who? Who is the Antichrist, the one that falls from heaven? Is he about to be cast out, making room for us for the marriage supper of the Lamb? Guys, I'm telling you, this is some really big, huge breaking news that we're seeing happening right now. And the queen has passed away in 926. 926. Her second birthday, 926. The end of this sabbatical year, 926. And 926 is very important because Feast of Trumpets is 925 through 27. And it lines up perfectly this year with Daniel chapter 9, 25 through 27. And Daniel 9, 25 through 27 talks about the 70th week and the Antichrist. And it lines up perfectly with the 926 because 926 is in the middle. It's the bullseye day. Exactly. In the middle, they take her out. She doesn't make 926. Olivia Newton-John didn't make 926.
This year, and this year only, in the feast of the 7th month, when these 3 feasts fall, it is the beginning of a Shemitah cycle. It is also the year of Jubilee. So what we find this year is incredible in the sense that this year, being the year of Jubilee, We have everything being fulfilled at once. This fall begins a Shemitah cycle. This fall is a year of Jubilee. This fall is the date the King of Israel gathers everyone together. This can only happen every 50 years. What are the odds Messiah is going to wait another 50 years? God forbid. He can do whatever he wants. But what are the odds also? What do we see here? Look at this. This coming Tishri. We have the first year of a Shemitah cycle. We have the year of Jubilee. We have the Hakel. I don't know how many of you have ever been to the slot machines. If you've been to the Vegas airport, they're all over. But what are the odds? Rosh Hashanah is 9/26/22. Sukkot is 10/10 when the Hakel is read. And what do we see? Let's watch our slot machine. Drum roll. There we go. Look at that. The appointed times. The trumpets, the New Year 7-year cycle, Yom Kippur, year of Jubilee, Tabernacles, the Hakel. This can only happen this year and won't again for 50 more years.
Medrashim, and it says there that on the 20th of Elul, Messiah will come.
The rapture did not occur in 2017 because the sign is pointing to sometime in the future. In order to warn of an up-and-coming event, signs must appear sometime before the event. In this case, the blood moons and the Revelation 12 sign appear at a time interval that is biblically meaningful. The last blood moon occurred on 9/27 to 9/28/2015, around the time of Tabernacles. It's exactly 7 years from the last blood moon to the Feast of Trumpets 2022, which begins at sunset on 9/27 and ends on sunset 9/29. 7 is a number of completion and spiritual perfection. The number 726 can be broken into two parts, 7 and 26. The 7 representing years, and the 26 is the numerical value of the name of God, Yahweh. In 7 years indicated by the Revelation 12 sign, we will be meeting with God. From the Revelation 12 sign, it's exactly 5 years on the Jewish calendar from the Feast of Trumpets 2017 to the Feast of Trumpets 2022. The time period from the Revelation 12 sign to the rapture has significant biblical meaning. The age of grace is coming to a close. In the Greek language, the word grace has a numerical value of 725. In Strong's Concordance, the value of the word harpazo, rapture, is 726. The age of grace, 725, will be closed by the rapture, 726. This is the view of the heavens at sunset at the start of the Feast of Trumpets 2022. Jupiter, the man-child, the Christian from the Revelation 12 sign, is above the tail of the dragon. In the constellation of Pisces, the Christian. It has taken 5 years to arrive at this location from the day the Revelation 12 sign reached its fulfillment. The age of grace is about to come to a close. The last blood moon of the blood moon tetrad is in the same location as Jupiter. 7 years to the day on the Feast of Trumpets. The new moon, representing concealment at the start of the Feast of Trumpets 2022, is in the same location as was Jupiter 5 years prior when the Revelation 12 sign reached its fulfillment. The new moon in the Bible is when the moon is new, when it first becomes visible after not being seen for 1 to 2 days. The Feast of Trumpets begins with the sighting of the first thin sliver of the crescent moon. On the Feast of Trumpets 2022, all the planets are in a location that tells the story of the rapture and coming tribulation. At dawn on the Feast of Trumpets, Mars is located between the horns of Taurus, Christ the Judge. The ancient rabbis believe Mars, with its red color, represented bloodshed. The tribulation begins when the Lion of the tribe of Judah opens the 7 seals, releasing the 4 horsemen. Looking due east just before sunrise on the first day of the Feast of Trumpets from Jerusalem. The constellation of the Lion of the tribe of Judah is rising in the east along with Venus, the bright morning star, who represents Jesus. I, Jesus, have sent my angel to testify to you about these things for the churches. I am the root and the descendant of David, the bright morning star. The Spirit and the bride say, Come. Mercury representing the angels who testify to the church, and Michael and his angels who fight back against the dragon. It's Christ who starts the tribulation by opening the scroll and its 7 seals, releasing the 4 horsemen. From the Revelation 12 sign to the rapture, it's 5 years. From the Revelation 12 sign to our return with Christ, it's 12 years. Revelation 12:5 says this, She gave birth to a male child, one who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron, but her child was caught up to God and his throne. In Revelation chapter 12, it's in verse 5 that we are told of the rapture of the male child. 12 years after the appearance of the Revelation 12 sign on Yom Kippur, we return to rule and reign with Christ. The number 12 in the Bible is the number of governmental perfection. 12 tribes, 12 apostles, etc. This verse, Revelation 12:5, appears to be yet another confirmation that the rapture will occur on the Feast of Trumpets 2022. This is the view of the heavens on Yom Kippur 2029, 12 years after the appearance of the Revelation 12 sign. This is the day Christ returns with the armies of heaven to destroy all those who have aligned themselves with the powers of darkness. Then I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. The one sitting on it is called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. On Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, we see in the constellation of the Atonement the moon representing Messiah, a dying goat with the tail of a fish, symbolic of Christ's atonement, paying the price to redeem the Christian whose symbol is the fish. In the center, we see the rider of the white horse, his bow pointed at the scorpion. The scorpion represents the Antichrist, who is to come from the tribe of Dan, and all those who have chosen to follow the beast, those who have taken the mark. His eyes are like a flame of fire, and on his head are many diadems, and he has a name written that no one knows but himself. He is clothed in a robe dipped in blood, and the name by which he is called is the Word of God. And the armies of heaven, arrayed in fine linen, white and pure, were following him on white horses. We are part of the armies of heaven. Notice where Jupiter is from the Revelation 12 sign. It's in almost the same location as it was on the day the Revelation 12 sign, which you see here, reached its fulfillment. Venus, the bright morning star, appears in the evening sky along with Jupiter. This scene of Christ returning appears in the evening sky as he is bringing the tribulation to an end. When the tribulation began, Venus was in the morning sky. When we look at these two verses, we see them symbolically represented in the heavens. We see the rider of the white horse with his bow pointed at the scorpion. On both sides of the scorpion, we see imagery of Christ and his armies surrounding the scorpion. To the left of the scorpion, we see the moon, representing Christ the Messiah, above the tail of the fish being the symbol of the Christian, Christ and his army, as we are part of the armies of heaven. To the right, we see Christ, the bright morning star, and Jupiter, representing the Christians who have been with Christ for 7 years in heaven, and who are now returning with Christ as part of the armies of heaven. And the armies of heaven were following him on white horses. In righteousness he judges and makes war. Mars, representing bloodshed, is in the constellation of Judgement, Libra. Much blood will be spilled in this final battle. Then I saw an angel standing in the sun, and with a loud voice he called to all the birds that fly directly overhead, "Come, gather for the great supper of God." The angel standing in the sun is represented by the planet Mercury. It's too close to the sun to be seen when the sun rises in the morning. It's standing in the sun. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth with their armies gathered to make war against him who was sitting on the horse and against his armies. And the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet, who in the presence had done the signs by which he deceived those who had received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped its image. These two were thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur, and the rest were slain by the sword that came from the mouth of him who was sitting on the horse, and all the birds were gorged with their flesh. Saturn, representing Satan and his evil empire, is in the constellation of Taurus, Christ the judge. Christ will judge all who have come against him, those who have aligned themselves with the beast, those who have taken the mark. Every heavenly body takes part in the telling of the story of Christ's return as depicted in the book of Revelation, chapter 19. When Jesus was born and when he died, there is a very precise symbolic depiction of those events in the heavens. At the rapture, on the Feast of Trumpets, we see similar symbolic depictions of the rapture and the start of the tribulation in the heavens. The signs in the heavens at the rapture on the Feast of Trumpets are covered in my last video. If you haven't watched that video, here's the link. Everything I share with you is my opinion from my research. Thanks for watching.
Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed on our solemn feast day.
Food prices will reach peak prices in September.
We're going into a war cycle. It just so happened the war cycle is going to start on a very interesting date, September 26th.
We are witnessing, and not just since this summer, but over the past few years, the end of what we might have seen as abundance. And for those who enjoyed it, it is also the end of a carefree time. Our freedom, the liberty to which we have grown accustomed to in our lives, has a price, and sometimes when we have to defend it, we have to make certain sacrifices as we fight to defend it.
Even if you're not a farmer, you know that different crops are harvested at different times, right? For example, you start planting winter wheat in the fall and then you harvest it in the spring. Spring wheat is planted in the spring and then starts to get harvested in the fall. With that being said, the bulk of this year's growing season will start to be harvested in the end of September.
I heard the voice say, "The great day will be on the first 26." Then my sister in the dream repeated it. She said, the great day will be on the first 26? And then I repeated it, and I said, oh, the great day will be on the first 26. The great day will be on the first 26. And I kept repeating, and it was repeated in the dream until I woke up.
So basically we were in tents, and Dana Coverston is literally holding a mic, and all through the dream he's just retelling his dream, just constantly retelling his September dream. That's all we're doing the whole dream, guys. And this was another one of those dreams that God gave me where no matter how much I was interrupted, when I went back to sleep, it picked back up where it left off. But every time I went to sleep, it picked back up with us in tents and Dana Coverston retelling his September dream over and over and over. And then I kept seeing the number 26. 26. I have no idea what this number means. I kept hearing, guys, and I know nothing about this, so please help me if you do. Gregorian calendar. And I'm looking at my notes, guys, because I had to get up and text myself. But I kept hearing Gregorian calendar. Gregorian, I hope I'm saying that right. But that's what I kept hearing. And I got up and I looked that up. Obviously, I was trying to look it up with the number 26.
I had a dream that followed the same pattern of the months. And I saw the calendar turn to September. And a hand reached up and grabbed the month of September and pulled it off of the page. And my mind and my attention was turned to the end of the month of September, where there was a whole lot of people still praying on that day. And the heavens opened. And I saw the Lord, and he was standing there with angels. And he said very clearly, "Arise, my bride. Arise, my bride, and prepare to pray. Arise, my bride, and prepare for battle." And lastly, he said, arise, my bride, and prepare to see my face. For I'm coming soon, and my reward is with me. And then there was a sound like of 1,000 shofars being blown all at once. And even in the dream, I could feel the wind of those shofars hitting my face. And I woke up.
Daniel 9:27 is being signed by Emmanuel Macron on September 26, 2022. Funny thing about this, 4 days ago I had mentioned to Minister Joe I had a dream about September and 26.
The biblical name of Rosh Hashanah is Yom Adin, Judgment Day, because that's the day that the entire world is being judged. And it's actually the day that is decided if the world will continue to exist or not. On Judgment Day, on Rosh Hashanah, the entire world is being judged by the Master of the universe. And with our prayers, we crown God to be our God, which means that that day is important to any human being, not only to Jews and not only to observant Jews. This day is detrimental to any living creature in the world, Jews and non-Jews. And even the animals and nature, vegetation, everything is being judged that day. That's why it's called Judgment Day.
No man knew the day or the hour when the feast would start. Even to this day, the Feast of Trumpets is kept as a 2-day feast because the sighting of the new moon could fall on either one or the other day. So when Jesus was saying you won't know the day or the hour, he was actually telling you it's the Feast of Trumpets that he's coming back for his bride during the rapture. Now, we don't know the exact day and hour, but it's either going to take place on one day or the other during that feast. The Jews knew the feast days, so they immediately understood what Jesus meant. No wonder Paul says in 1 Thessalonians 5 concerning the times and seasons, "You have no need that I write unto you," because the Feast of Trumpets is the only feast also where the shofar is blown 100 times. You have 3 distinct sounds blown in sets of 9 and repeated 11 times, which gives you 99. The last one, which is one long blow, is always referred to as the last trump. So when you see in 1 Thessalonians 4:16 through 18 where it says with the trump of God, it's referring here to that specific feast, the last trump. It's talking about the Feast of Trumpets during that feast.
In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, the last trumpet, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed.
In the ancient Jewish weddings, when the man would come secretly to the woman's house and snatch her out of the house, what they would do is they would carry her in a box with handles on, known as the aperion. The Hebrew word is nisewin, which also means to lift up or to carry. And 4 men on either side would then lift her up and carry her. Then they would carry her off to where she would meet her husband. In our case, we're going to meet the Lord in the clouds. 1 Thessalonians 4:16 and 18. Lifting up the bride is an ancient Jewish wedding custom of carrying the bride to the ceremony in a carriage called the aperion. She would be accompanied by singers, dancers, and 10 young virgins carrying real tall poles with oil lamps on top. That's where the parable of the 10 virgins with the oil lamps comes from. In the ancient Jewish wedding, these 10 virgins were actually connected to the wedding event. Then the couple goes and enters into what is called a huppah, which is the marital chamber, and they stay there for 7 days. Then they come out and go back into public. The picture of that is, if you read the Bible, many times days are interchanged for years. The Bible says Israel doubted God for 40 days, so God said, I will give you a year for a day, and they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. Likewise, while the bride and groom are hidden in the marital chambers for 7 days, prophetically it's speaking of the 7-year tribulation that takes place during the time on the earth, and the Feast of Trumpets is the event when this takes place. The bride and groom going into the huppah is being concealed together. In other words, they are hidden from public. So the meaning of the catching away of the believer is for the body of Christ to be hidden away, just like Isaiah 26:20 said in the time of God's indignation. Verse 20 says, Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself, as it were, for a little moment, until the indignation be overpast. Come into thy chambers and shut the door is Jewish terminology, and if you lived during that time, you'd immediately understand that he's using a wedding term. So the bride and groom are to be hidden until the indignation is overpassed. And most scholars agree this means a time of judgment and a time of God pouring out his wrath upon the earth for their disobedience. We use the term tribulation to describe that time period. Another name for Rosh Hashanah is Yom HaKaseh, meaning the day of hiding. When you do a Hebrew root study of the word HaKaseh, it means to hide, conceal, or to cover. The reason it's called Yom HaKaseh, a day of hiding, is because most feasts are centered around the full moon. Rosh Hashanah, or the Feast of Trumpets, is the only feast that is centered around a new moon. When there is a full moon, it's not concealed. But when there's a new moon, it's concealed. So Rosh Hashanah is also referred to as the day of concealment because the moon is not visible, and only when two witnesses see the edge of the moon, they knew that it was time for Rosh Hashanah, which is also their Jewish New Year, or the Feast of Trumpets, to begin.
So Yitzhak Kaduri is the first one. This was a prophecy that was released by the Jewish media, which was written by him. His students released it. Written by him in 1979, so a good 42 years ago. And it says, on the eve of the year 5780, the year of corrections, there will not be a government in Israel for an extended period, and various camps will be quarreled much without a decision on either side. So we know that at that period of time, we are now coming up to the end of 5781. We know that at that period of time in 5780, there wasn't a government in Israel, and that's been the case since the end of 2019. There hasn't been a government in Israel. So the December 2019 was when they dissolved the government, and there hasn't been an exclusive or leader, which is either Benjamin Netanyahu, he's had to have this power sharing deal. Then it says, and then on Rosh Hashanah itself they will fight in heaven. So we don't know if there's a gap there between on the eve of the year 5780, the year of corrections, there will not be a government in Israel. We know that was the case, and it remains the case. There still hasn't been an exclusive government in Israel. So where it says, and then on Rosh Hashanah itself they will fight in heaven, the holy side against the side of evil, and God and his entourage will decide between them, and this is all I can say, and from here I swore not to reveal more secrets and hidden things. So we don't know, is that pointing to a future Rosh Hashanah? Are we going to get taken up and see this war in heaven? Or is this war in heaven taking place at the moment, and when we go up then the war in heaven ends and the dragon and Satan and his fallen angels get kicked out? We don't know. That cannot be told. We will obviously find that out in the future.
Shofar is linked especially to the last days, to the end time believer. That's you. And the mystery of the age is that God has set up the entire age as a Hebrew year, meaning the Hebrew year begins in the spring with the holy days, Passover and Pentecost. And so the gospel begins in the spring with Passover, Messiah on the cross, and Pentecost, the Spirit. And then comes the summer harvest, where we are now in the summer harvest, about go forth and preach the gospel. But the Hebrew year closes in the autumn. September, October is when it all comes home. And the Feast of Trumpets ushers that all in. So the trumpets are linked to the mystery of the end of the age.
Meanwhile, in September this year, NASA will execute an exciting mission. It will try to change an asteroid's orbit, deflect it with its kinetic impact. Now, the name of this mission is DART, and this is short for the Double Asteroid Redirection Test. And this test will help NASA develop the world's first planetary defense system, a system to prevent Earth from a catastrophic event.
DART will essentially smash into Dimorphos, a small asteroid satellite that orbits the potentially hazardous near-Earth object Didymos at 24,000 kilometers an hour. That sounds like a lot, but if we convert that number to one of the primary measurements used for most space rocks in the solar system, we get about 6 kilometers per second, which is still pretty fast. Didymos is around 0.78 to 0.8 kilometers in diameter, but Dimorphos is much smaller, measuring only 170 meters, but otherwise would leave the asteroid relatively unscathed. And it appears that might no longer be the case.
Now, if this comet continues on its path around the sun and keeps its present course, sometime on August 16th, roughly a year from now, there's a chance that we might have impact. So for the past 8 months, the United States and Russia have been building the largest spaceship ever constructed. It's being built in orbit around the Earth, and we call it the Messiah. And right now, a team of American astronauts and one Russian are at Cape Canaveral in Florida. In 2 months, they will leave on the shuttle Atlantis to board the Messiah. This is the crew that will stop the comet.
Paleontology was paleontology have to do with anything?
In September this year, DART will collide with Dimorphos, an asteroid measuring 160 meters in diameter and located 11 million kilometers from Earth. This asteroid is basically a moon orbiting a larger asteroid. The mission will change its trajectory to avoid a potential collision. It will hit Dimorphos at a speed of 24,000 kilometers per hour. Since neither its composition nor shape is known, the effects of the impact will be observed by a small satellite, which will be deployed a few days before. The question is, does this asteroid really pose a threat? Not really. Scientists say none of the 27,500 asteroids near Earth pose a threat. However, they are only aware of 40% of the asteroids around Earth. There could be millions more. So NASA hopes this mission will prepare it for the day when an undiscovered asteroid poses a threat to our planet. That said, this mission also runs certain risks. It may help change an asteroid's orbit, but it could also fragment it into smaller craters, the consequences of which could be disastrous.
Hello, America. It is my unhappy duty to report to you that the Messiah has failed. This computer-enhanced radar image from Houston shows how the detonation succeeded, however, did not destroy the comet. There are now two pieces, one 6 miles wide, the other 1.5 miles. Both are still on the path towards Earth. We've lost communication with the Messiah spacecraft, although we continue to track it visually. We don't know how many are alive. We don't know their condition. Now we have to make some decisions together. What do we do? You have a choice. We have a choice. Right now. Ever since the comet was discovered, we've been hoping and working for the best. But we've also been planning for the worst. Our strategy has been twofold. First, our Strategic Missile Command is preparing to coordinate with the Russians a massive strike of Titan missiles to intercept the comets. If we can deflect these comets enough, they will bounce harmlessly off our atmosphere and head on out into space. Unfortunately, the Titans cannot be launched until the comets are only a few hours away. And while we are confident the missile attack will succeed, it is only prudent that we now take cautionary steps to ensure the continuation of our way of life, to guarantee that there will be enough of us left to rebuild a new world in the unlikely event that the comets do strike the Earth. So, in the soft limestone of Missouri, we've been preparing a network of immense caves, and they're almost finished. And we can put 1 million people in them. And that 1 million people can survive there underground for 2 years until the air clears and the dust settles. Now, the cave is more than a dormitory. It's our new Noah's Ark. We're storing seeds and seedlings, plants, animals, enough to start over. On August 10th, a computer will randomly select 800,000 Americans to join the 200,000 scientists, doctors, engineers, teachers, soldiers, and artists who have already been chosen. Other countries are preparing similar caves along whatever lines they feel are best to preserve their way of life. this is ours.
Dad, they're firing the rocket!
All right!
It blew up the bridge! We're doomed!
It's times like this I wish I were a religious man.
It's all over, people! We don't have a prayer! Ah!
And like Icarus, the rocket foolishly soared too high and lost control of its servo guidance mechanism, leaving us with some 6 hours to live. So, let's go live now to the charred remains of the only bridge out of town with Arnie Pie and Arnie in the Sky.
With the bridge gone and the airport unfortunately on the other side of the bridge, a number of citizens are attempting to jump the gorge with their cars. It's a silent testament to the never give up and never think things out spirit of our citizens.
With our utter annihilation imminent, our federal government is snapped into action. We go live now via satellite to the floor of the United States Congress.
Then it is unanimous. We are going to approve the bill to evacuate the town of Springfield.
Our missiles have failed. The comets are still headed for Earth, and there's nothing we can do to stop them. So this is it. If the world does go on, it will not go on for everyone.
But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. He who testifies to these things says, Yes, I am coming soon. Amen. Come, Lord Jesus.